Hey Fortnite fans, here we have the latest legendary micro series squad set from Jazwares. I ordered this from GameStop online for $19.99. Flip around, on the back side of the box shows us figures that will be released in the future. And over here on the right side of the box, we see that these are figures numbers 30 through 33. Alright, let's take a closer look. As you can see, these are the four figures that come in the set. We have Raven over here with the Iron Beak harvesting tool. We have Red Style Lynx with the Scratchmark harvesting tool. We have Moisty Merman with the Director's Cut harvesting tool. And finally we have Meowscles with the Solid Scratch dual harvesting tools. And let's get Lynx standing back up here. Maybe. All these figures have 14 points of articulation, except for the cats. Meowscles and Red Lynx have an additional point of articulation behind in the form of a tail. All this thing does is just kind of rotate around like that. If you're not careful, they can pop out. They're just pegged in there. So that might be a piece that can get easily lost if you're prone to losing little pieces on action figures or other various toys. So let's take a peek at this articulation, the 14 points of articulation. We will use Meowscles as our example today because they're generally speaking all about the same. Raven, stand. So let's get the harvesting tools out of his hands. The 14 points of articulation have the head that rotates around like so. The arms can rotate all the way around and can hinge up. The elbow has a hinge. The wrist has a rotation. The waist has a rotation. There's a ball joint at the hips, so you can bring the hips up or the legs up. You can attempt to do the splits. They go about that far unless there's some sort of a hindrance. There is a hinge at the knee, and that wraps it up. So that's the general gist of the articulation for these figures. Let's go ahead and take these off for a second, and I'll show you a few specific pieces. There's, generally speaking, not a lot of hindrance articulation-wise on these figures. Moisty Merman does have some shoulder pads here that if you want to rotate the arm around like that, you're going to run into these arm pads. So you're going to need to spread his arm out and then kind of do a rotation like that so you don't accidentally rip these off. They're a soft rubber, and I don't know how glued in they are, but eventually I think those things will break off or rip off. Unlike the Jazwares 4-inch version, this helmet mask does not come off, revealing a head, but he does. If you look in here between the teeth, you can see that they molded at least a nose or something there, and who knows, maybe they did actually have a face under here, and then they put a mask and glued it on over that. I'm not sure, but you can see what almost looks to be a bit of a slit for eyes and nose. It's kind of interesting. Raven here, I think, is probably one of the better looking figures of the set in regards to detail and so forth. He does have some soft rubber coat pieces hanging down, and that will allow him to do the splits about that far. He can sit though, except for those coat pieces, and they are nice and soft. If you want to rotate his head around, he does have this bit of feathery ruff around his neck, so you won't be able to rotate the head all the way around, but you know, this is not like the Exorcist thing where like the head flips all the way around or anything, so you wouldn't need to move his head all the way around like that. Lynx, I noticed at least two things. One, when you bend her knees, they only go back about that far. I'm not sure if it's my figure. I don't know if it's a sticking thing, but this figure's legs only go back about that far when you bend the knee. Like that. It's kind of weird. When you lift up her arms at the shoulders, she's got these little shoulder pads that are built onto the arms right there, and they actually stop from going all the way up. So her arms can go up about that far. It's not a huge deal. I mean, you still got some stuff to do. I'm still a little disappointed that the hands don't come any closer together so that you can double hold like a weapon or harvesting tool easier. If we were to get her harvesting tool, the Scratchmark, then if you want, you can kind of get them. If you finagle and rotate the wrists enough, you can get them to kind of hold double-handed a harvesting tool. So I think that kind of wraps this up. So let me get him standing up here so you can see him as we exit this video. Anyway, I think this line will be going for a while. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of these little figures, and I'm not disappointed about that. While I wish these figures had a couple more points of articulation, one, I wouldn't mind a rotation at the ankle, and maybe, just maybe, a rotation around the elbow as well to be able to bring those hands closer together to double hand hold a gun, and maybe a thigh rotation. I know I'm getting a little picky. I'm pushing it up there. Those two things I think would really work with these figures, but that's from my point of view as an action figure collector. I know I'm not the target audience or market for these, but I'm just saying what I think would be pretty cool. I know the target audience is probably a much smaller person than I am. Anyway, either way, I am impressed with the detail and the paint apps on these figures, especially with Raven over here, as I mentioned, I think is the best. I think Meowscles and Raven are probably the best for detail and paint apps. I think they look really good. In fact, over here on Meowscles' right arm, you can still see the Lynx tattoo, which I think is pretty cool that got added on there. When you look at something like the armband for Raven, it's all like a molded piece of plastic. It's not like you get the little two tufts of armband sticking out like the bigger figures. But anyway, I think the detail is pretty nice. Now, these will never replace my love for the 4-inch figures, but these figures are definitely growing on me. I'm getting more interested in them, and I'm really kind of anxious to see where this line goes, because there are so many figures, or there's so many characters that are in Fortnite, and I don't know, I'm starting to have a little bit of doubt. So the 4-inch line is awesome, and we've got a couple hundred figures at this point, but I wonder if Jazwares maybe won't be able to put out more figures, maybe more playsets, maybe more vehicles on this scale than the 4-inch line. And anyway, I'm just really excited, really anxious to see where they take this. I had to warm up to this line, but I'm starting to warm there. So anyway, now it is your turn. What do you think about this set? Do you have a favorite? Is one of these your favorite? I would like to know. Leave your thoughts or leave your comments in the comments section below. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.